Hey team, you're about to experience my interview with Tomer AZENKOT from V24. V24 is a video chat solution for e-commerce merchants. It allows live agents to engage directly with customers wherever they are via video and virtual services such as virtual shopping cart creation and merchandising. Creates a much deeper engagement between a brand and their e-commerce customers. A fantastic conversation. Enjoy. This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome Tomer AZENKOT from V24. Welcome, Tomer.
Thanks, Jason. Happy to be here.
It's super exciting to have you along for the ride today. And before we dig right into what V24 is and what it does and the tech and the underpinnings of the tech, maybe give us just a brief background of how you came to be in this space. V24 is targeted at the e-commerce and omnichannel merchant space. And so it's an enablement technology. That's how I would class it, as an enablement technology for commerce. And as I look back across your history, you have worked in kind of the broadcast television space. You've worked in the media, the broader media space for a long time. So I'm assuming that maybe has something to do with how you came up with V24, but maybe just give us the walk down memory lane of how you came to be in this space.
Sure. Yeah. So I started my career in kind of enterprise software. I knew that's where I want to head. And by chance, I started working at a company. This is back when I was living in Israel. I started off in a company that sells to broadcasters, mostly large TV stations. And that led me to the next company that was also in the space. And then the third one, still in the space, but I made a slight transition from the traditional broadcast over to digital or over the top, which was the same transition that all the customers that I was working with were making at the time as well. This is back in like early 2010s. So that kind of brought me over to digital, a lot of involvement with apps and websites and things of that nature. And then those companies were all larger or mid-sized to large, publicly traded. And I decided I want to try my luck at startups. So about 5 years ago, I joined a startup that was in the UX research space. So again, a slight pivot, still very much digital websites and user experience now, in addition to digital media. And then about 9 months ago now, when I joined V24, I was presented the opportunity. And at the time, I felt like it was the kind of perfect intersection between the two spaces that I've had experience in. So it's both the user experience, the customer engagement on websites, along with the digital experience that I had before, and video, of course, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, and let's maybe unpick a little bit of your experience with Bright Cove. And for those that don't know what Bright Cove is, I think of it almost like a private YouTube, where it's basically privately hosted videos on a video serving platform that allows you to exert a lot more control over where your videos are posted, where they can play. You get much deeper analytics about your videos as a result of them being privately hosted and managed. They can be password protected. There's all sorts of things, I guess, that Bright Cove offers over just having your videos hosted on a YouTube. Obviously, YouTube being a massive discovery platform in its own right, oftentimes people will have them hosted in both places, but Bright Cove has really stood out, and I've been to a few conferences where they were a key sponsor, and so I've heard them speak a few times about their platform. But they really broke new ground. Them and Wistia and a couple of others really broke new ground in that owned digital video space, and I'm guessing that perhaps contributed to shaping your view of the digital video world. Did it?
Yeah. And so I worked at Brightcove for nearly 5 years, joined just after the IPO. And there I got the opportunity to work with many leading media companies. So both publishers, so the likes of Times Magazine, ESPN, Viacom. So the really large media companies that have their own platforms, over-the-top platforms with their own content, and they leverage Brightcove as a white label solution. In some cases to compete with YouTube, in some cases integrating with YouTube as well to really get content out there for the purposes typically of monetization.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. On a lot of these, in the early days of over-the-top video, oftentimes these legacy stations had to create their entire own video infrastructure. They had to have their own, direct-to-video, digital video recording infrastructure. They had to have the hosting infrastructure. They had to have the distribution infrastructure. It was a massive undertaking, and there was a time there where the entire broadcast video media space became massively disrupted in a really short period of time with digital and on demand. And it became pretty apparent pretty quick, at least to people like myself as a consumer of video, that it needed to be on demand. That instead of, okay, here's this TV show that's going to play every night at 7 p.m. and now I've got to block out my schedule. And what happens if I've got a meeting and I can't watch it again? I missed unless I have a DVR at home, which is a pain in the ass. And I'm going to set my timer to record the video so that then I can go back and watch it at a convenient time. DVRs were only popular for a very short window of time because then we went to digital streaming and be able to have digital replays and all that sort of stuff. So I noticed there was like a 5 to 10 year window where DVRs were super popular, and then they just went away because everything went over the top, and basically it was all on demand, and it was all originally live streamed, and then it would oftentimes be available on digital replay on demand. And man, the broadcast video media space underwent just a crazy change in relatively speaking, a super compressed period of time. And I think that what facilitated that, at least as an outsider, and I don't work in this space, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, broadband internet pretty much made all this possible, and especially mobile broadband, 3G, 4G, 5G, it made all of this possible, combined with massive compression techniques on the video distribution side. So it feels like there was 2 or 3 technologies that kind of had to come together to make this possible on the go, on demand, all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we were talking about our travels around the world before we started recording. I lived in Singapore for 6 years, and there we worked in a lot of countries that are developing or emerging markets where, because of 3G, 4G, and now 5G mobile connectivity, they were able to leapfrog, in many cases, the satellite and the cable TV that we know here for many years. But they never had that there. So they went from over the air, free to broadcast, directly to watching content on their mobile phones, many never actually owning TVs in their homes. So lots of interesting dynamics, and I totally agree with you. In a relatively short period of time, maybe 5 to 10 years, all the broadcasters transitioned to offering over-the-top solutions. And on the technology side, what Brightcove did and what they do today, in many ways, it's become commoditized. So the Brightcove's mission in 2004, when it was founded, was to make video ubiquitous on the internet. And that was achieved maybe 10 years ago. I think we're probably going to see soon, I don't know, from Brightcove or from one of the other players, but we'll see what comes next now that everyone already has their OT platforms. And it's the technology, the barrier of entry for the technology is really low. It's really easy to get started. A lot of open source technology out there. And I don't know what the future is for Brightcove, but I think there needs to be some sort of innovation that takes us to that next step.
Couldn't agree more, and that's a beautiful segue into V24 and where you find yourself today. And when I first saw that name, it immediately made me think of Gary V. So I don't know if that was a brainwave by the founders, and they were like, "Man, we're gonna tail onto this Gary V thing, and we're gonna snag that V word," or if it was just an available domain name, or whether it was Video 24, or it maybe give me the background of the name and how that company even came to be initially before we dig into the tech and what it does for brands.
Sure. Yeah. So the company, it's not a new company, probably before Gary V became very famous. So V24 was founded, there have been a number of pivots, but originally founded in 2008, 2013 in its current form. But the original name V24, so VE stood for Video Engaging Enterprise, and 24 to represent 24 hours a day. So that was the origins. Very few people, in fact, it wouldn't surprise me if many of our employees don't even know that V stands for Video Engaging Enterprise. But again, I think today it's already ubiquitous. Every enterprise is engaging with video in one way or another. But yeah, I joined about 9 months ago. What we do is, so we're a SaaS company. At the core of what we do is a suite of tools for customer engagement for companies' websites. So we help companies better engage with their website visitors through a number of different tools. The core of our solution is a video chat solution, enabling website visitors to instantly begin a video chat with the company that they're shopping, the website that they're shopping on, the company they want to engage with. There are two main use cases for that. One is where video really helps by seeing the product. So if, for example, you're on an e-commerce website for buying jewelry, you want to see the jewelry before you buy it, you want to maybe speak with a salesperson while they show you the different pieces of jewelry, video is incredibly helpful for that use case. And the other is where seeing the person you're speaking with is incredibly valuable. So just for the same reason we're using video today, if you want to speak with your financial advisor, if you want to speak with someone at V24, you go to our website, you can begin an instant video chat and see who you're speaking with rather than calling an 800 number or text chat. So that's the video part of the solution. In addition to video, we also offer text chat, which is a really good productivity tool because a single agent can communicate with multiple website visitors through text chat. And we often see also that text chat is an easy way to begin the engagement. And then during the engagement, you can upgrade from text to video. So that's the core of our human-led experiences. And then we also have an automated experience using a chatbot. Today, there's probably hundreds of companies out there with chatbots. We also have one. The unique thing about ours is that it's really good at finding the right opportunity to upgrade that human to chatbot communication to a human to human one. So it will identify when you get a little frustrated, when you're not getting the feedback that you need, and now is the right time to offer you to connect with a real person on the other side.
Look, there's so much to unpick here. It sounds like a pretty exciting platform. I think where we can maybe draw some parallels, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a lot of businesses today, they need to offer a concierge-like service. They need to offer a consultative buying service, a consultative buying process. And that's very difficult to do in absence of video, right? Like just with typewritten live chat, that's limited. We have a scenario where even if somebody's in a call center and the video is available, they're not necessarily in a store, they don't necessarily have access to the products, they don't necessarily have the product knowledge that they need to have to be able to effectively consultatively sell that product, whether that's a fashion product, whether that's a piece of furniture, whether it's a piece of jewelry, basically anything that has, I guess, an aesthetic component to it in particular, or where there is a fitment question. So let's say it's an auto part and, oh, hey, show me that part that you're looking to replace. And you hold it up and they go, oh, that looks like this part, doesn't it? And, oh, I thought it was that part, but no, it definitely is that part because you're holding it up. So anything that has either a visual and aesthetic component or a fitment component, I feel would benefit from this type of two-way asynchronous conversation. And where I think a lot of brands have tried to achieve this is using something like Messenger or using something like WhatsApp, or in the old days before it got bought out, Hero, which got bought out by Klarna and then promptly got ruined by Klarna. So I feel like brands have tried to do this type of thing in various different ways over the years, but it feels because your platform is dedicated to this type of experience. And therefore, I'm guessing that you have the ability, for example, to, when a call comes in, that it can get routed to the next available resource, the next available person in the queue. Almost live chat systems can be picked up by anybody who's in customer service and who is available at the time. I'm guessing that you offer analytics that a platform like WhatsApp would never offer in terms of performance of conversions and off the back of those conversations, being able to create carts on behalf of the client because you're integrated with the e-commerce platform. I'm guessing there's a whole lot of things, and maybe that's the next place we go, that because you are dedicated to the e-commerce space, that you provide functionality that is unique to merchants that they really have to have if they want to provide a high-level concierge type of service.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think a good way to summarize what you just said is that we really strive to give the consumer the right tool at the right time. So in addition to the instantaneous abilities to connect with an agent, we also have a scheduler, so you can schedule either a virtual or an in-store appointment. And in many cases, we also offer asynchronous chat. So we do integrate with WhatsApp and SMS and Facebook Messenger and other messaging tools. Because some people, they may be in front of their computer right now, or they may be on their phone, but they don't want to sit there for 20 minutes right now and have a conversation. They'd rather do it asynchronously over time. Or maybe they begin the conversation late at night when an agent isn't available, and then they pick it up in the morning the next day. So the right tool at the right time for the right use case is really where we're focused. There's another element that you kind of touched on but didn't mention, which is co-browsing, which is a key part to our solution. So the ability to be, for, let's say, me as the agent to share my screen with you, for you as the consumer to share your screen with me, and then we can also collaborate on the same screen. So for example, if there is a form to fill, or if there is, let's say you're adding products to a cart, and I can help you with that. So if you're on your phone, you're driving, let's say, I could do that for you. Or if you're someone with some accessibility challenges, or someone who's a little bit less technology savvy, and you want the help of an agent to carry out operations, they can basically take over your screen on your browser and do it for you.
And I'm guessing that a lot of your clients will use it for both from a sales channel perspective and a sales management and assistant and collaboration perspective, but also customer service. So if I'm sitting in customer service department and somebody's having trouble resetting their password or getting logged in or navigating the website, finding things, figuring out a wish list functionality, or just being able to use some of the core functionalities of a website for people that are technology challenged can be difficult. Or the website might actually have a bug. It might have a problem. There might be something that's broken. And by being able to share screens and seeing exactly what the customer is seeing in the moment, you can see what they're referring to when they say, no, this actually doesn't work. I can't actually add this product to my cart, even though it looks like it's in stock. It looks like this is broken. And so I'm guessing that there's a customer service element to this, but also a sales element to this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And often in customer service, that's where our customers leverage the chatbot, or the more automated tool for being able to answer questions, kind of like an FAQ, a sophisticated FAQ, or the text chat where you want to be more productive. You don't want to have a video call for every single inquiry. You much rather have one agent be able to handle multiple conversations at the same time. So we definitely see both. I would say we're more focused on the sales, on the helping our customers grow. Again, that's where video plays a bigger part, but we would definitely like to help do both for the same customer.
And just to clarify, you are not a live stream shopping platform. That's not what you aim to be. You are a synchronous video chat platform in real time that allows the merchant to have that one-on-one video interactive, highly supportive, highly collaborative discussion with a client one-to-one.
Yeah, that's the exact distinction. We're one-to-one, we're not one-to-many. In some cases, we also have one-to-one-to-one when there is use case where you want to bring in someone else, a third person to the call. That is an option as well. Another thing you touched on before, Jason, we do have many customers that use our tool in a call center, and they do not have the products next to them, but they use the co-browsing functionality to co-browse through a product catalog that's online. For example, we just signed up a very large blinds and shade company. So it's a great product for us because the product catalog is huge, right? You have many options. And because you have many options, you typically go to the store in person and be able to see what's there. You need to speak with someone because I just bought a new house a couple years ago, and we had 30 windows that we needed to put blinds and shades on, and we spent several trips to the store and a lot of negotiation between myself and my wife trying to figure out what it is that we want and what are all the different options. And being able to do that using co-browsing is really powerful, because you can go together with a merchant, you can go through the catalog and make informed choices. And in some cases, it also makes sense for our customers to use our transferability from the call center. You can transfer to a store associate. So if the call center doesn't have the products, the stores obviously do, we also enable that transfer and making that connection between the call center and the stores. Perhaps the store that's closest to the person who's calling in. So that I think is really powerful, and I'd love to see more of it. I think there was a huge opportunity there in the retail world. There was a huge opportunity to connect between the call centers and the stores and kind of bridge the gap also between the website or the digital experience and the in-person experience that you have in stores.
Yeah, and I guess that mimics the old digital PABX scenario where, oh, I'm going to put you on hold, I'm going to transfer you to your local showroom down the road, and they'll pick up and whatever. But I guess the beauty of this kind of synchronous model is that when you get handed off, if you've got the one-to-one-to-one and you've got all three people on the call simultaneously, at least during the handoff process, then they can make the intro on your behalf. The call center, for example, can intro you and your needs to the person that picks up from the store and say, hey, look, I'm talking to John or Jane, and look, we've just had this conversation about these are their needs. This is where they're thinking. This is where their head's at. This is the style that they're after. And I know that you guys have these in stock and you're a specialist in this space. So now they really need some deeper consultation, and I'd love to hand them over to you now. And it feels like a less abrupt handoff than a standard put someone on hold, transfer them to another line kind of scenario, plus immediately whether that person's actually picked up, whether it's actually been a successful transfer and handover, as opposed to you putting on hold, clicking transfer, and they go into the ether and maybe they get cut off and you never even know about it until they call back and they're angry. So it feels like the digital video version of being put on hold and transferred.
Yeah. Yeah, and the store, the big advantage is the associate picks up on an iPad and then they have the ability to walk over to the product. So we work with a number of home furnishings companies where just imagine you're buying a sofa, you want to see it. The store associate will literally go to the sofa, show you the sofa, show you what it looks like in a real room, perhaps try to upsell you on the coffee table that's right next to the sofa as well. So it creates a lot of opportunities for the merchant, for the retailer, as well as a much better experience for the shopper.
And you talked about this kind of concept of integration with the catalog, with the product data. Are you actually integrating with, say, e-commerce platforms like a Shopify, BigCommerce, or Magento, whatever it is? Are you actually pulling SKUs into the platform? Are you pulling product data from the digital catalog into your system so that things can be selected from within there, so that if somebody wants to add it to cart on behalf of the customer, how are they doing that actual function? Is it integrated via API, or is it literally you're taking over their screen remotely and effectively guiding them through the process of adding to cart through their interface, but doing it remotely, almost like a remote desktop environment? What does the technical integration, what does the guts of this look like to enable all this amazing stuff to happen?
Yeah, it's definitely the latter. So we do not integrate with the e-commerce platform per se. We have a few different modes for sharing screens. So there is a very simple, like the remote desktop that we know from 20 years ago, where you can share your screen. We also have the collaborative sharing, where both sides can type in on the same form, or both mouse cursors at the same time. So that's really helpful in retail. And then we also have what we call secure share, where we have the capability to mask some of the fields. So for example, if there is a credit card number field, we can set it up so that the agent does not see the numbers that are being typed in by the consumer. So that's really secure for credit cards, social security numbers, and things of that nature. So that works really well, and it's used by effectively all of our customers. There was one other thing I wanted to say that just escaped my mind. It'll come back to me I now remember. So there is one other type of integration which is powerful, and we do in many of the instances where we're used, and that's integration with a CRM. So, whether it be Salesforce or one of the others, in order to give the agent all the details that they need about who it is that is there, how many times they visited the site previously. Maybe if they started the communication with a chatbot, we know how to surface that information of what the chat has been until this point when they begin the video chat, and then also feed all that information into the CRM at the end of the call. So that is an important integration, and one that we're building on top of more and more.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the pure chat platforms, they have deep integrations, usually with ERPs and customer service platforms like the Gorgeouses of the world, for example, where they're tracking contact and they're tracking it against a profile, and they're saving chat transcripts against the CRM profile, and they can operationalize that. They can sync that with a CDP, for example, and then the CDP, it allows you to track your profitability based on your cost of service of those customers. If a customer contacts us on average 3 times for every purchase, they're less valuable to us than someone who contacts us 0.5 times on average for every purchase, and returns and all that sort of stuff. So I think that those integrations are so key, because at the end of the day, unless you're tracking all the touch points that customers get a hold of you through in as near a real-time scenario as possible, that then you can leverage that data and you can use that data across not only CDP, but then marketing automation, and you can promote things to them that's personalized. You can just personalize so many more things when you know how this person interacts with your business and which channels they prefer to interact with you through. And do you get any pushback from brands where they go, look, this is amazing and this provides an awesome service, but we actually would prefer to push our customers more to live chat than to video because of exactly what you said. A customer service person can handle 5 live chats at one time, and then there's some canned responses that can go out via the live chat that with video, it's pretty much just one call at a time you can take in a synchronous video model. Do you get any questions or concerns about productivity of teams when you introduce video into the conversation? And I'm guessing that your answer to that, or at least my answer if I was sitting in your shoes, would be, yeah, it is more time consuming, but your conversion rate is going to be 10x, for example, what it would be in a standard live chat scenario. So who cares? The conversion is going to be so good, and the upsell potential and the ability to get a customer exactly what they want first time, every time, more than makes up for the loss of productivity of being able to manage high volumes of calls at the same time.
Yeah. So I'll give you some interesting data. I just presented this on a call a couple days ago. So we see on average about a 5x improvement in conversion. Now that is a little bit skewed because it's self-selecting. People who think they're going to buy it probably self-selecting into video. But regardless, there's a 5x increase in conversion for people using video versus not. But I think the more interesting data point is there is a 35% greater average order value when using video versus not. So like the example I gave in a furniture company where you go to see a sofa and the store associate takes their iPad and shows you the coffee table as well. You can only imagine how much easier that is, or how much more enticing it is to buy another product versus a self-checkout that you would typically have on a website. So we'll put that aside for a second. To answer your question, I think it's critical to get the use case right. So in some cases, video makes a lot of sense. In other cases, it doesn't. We've definitely had existing customers that have shifted from video to text because they saw that it's not worth keeping a team that's presentable over video. In other cases, maybe they offshore the customer success or customer support team, and that by being offshore, maybe they don't want them on video anymore. So when productivity is the goal, text makes a lot of sense. And in some cases also, fully automated using bots is the right way to go. My personal opinion, especially in the US, and we can talk about this, there was an interesting dynamic where in the US, we've really leaned heavily into chatbots and AI. In the last 6-9 months, ChatGPT and OpenAI are making so much noise. Everyone's got a chatbot on their website, and I think in many cases the experiences are not very good. And really, those brands can benefit a lot from having a more human-to-human experience, given the complexity or the high-value nature of their products. We try to match the use case and what the consumers expect with the right tools, and in some cases we're not a good fit, and that's fine.
And look, I think that there's something maybe psychological that gets overlooked or gets ignored intentionally by marketing teams or sales teams, which is that the e-commerce experience today still is very sanitized in the sense that it's very nameless, it's very faceless. Sure, you might have an About Us page, you might have a bio page with the founder's story and maybe even a video and maybe even some photos and a bio about your customer service team. And, oh, you're talking to Jane, cool, here's her bio page, you know who you're talking to. Relatively speaking, versus going into a physical store, it is a very sanitized 2D flat screen, even on your phone, very flat screen, the term I would use is cold. It's a very cold experience, right? It's a very mechanical, automated, let's remove as much friction as we can so we can get you from the point of consideration to the point of checkout and getting out your credit card ASAP, and let's remove all the barriers to doing so. And I think there is a human element that by definition is intentionally lost in that scenario. But we as human beings are still social creatures, and we still like interacting. I like having this conversation with you. Sure, I could have sent you, for example, I could have sent you a list of 20 questions. You could have answered them, and I could have published those as a blog article with a video of you talking about your product, but it doesn't have the same impact that a video podcast or even an audio podcast, so we distribute our podcast as both video and audio, it just doesn't have the same impact because we're humans are much better. Our two-way bandwidth, our synchronous bandwidth capability is far greater than just this one-way interface type of interaction. And it allows us to think on the fly. It allows us to ask questions contextually. It allows us to detect sentiment that you can't detect even through an email, a live chat. You can't. It's very difficult to detect sentiment. Very difficult. Whereas when we're having a real-time conversation, I can subtly detect, because I came way back very early in my career. I used to sell cars at a car dealership. And the best car salesman, and I wasn't one of those best because it was like one of my first jobs and I wasn't as good at being aggressive as some of my coworkers were. But the ones that did it the best and the ones that sold the most were able to tap into human psychology the fastest. And they also knew what their personality was. They knew what they could get away with because of their personality. They knew what would push the buttons in the right and sometimes the wrong way intentionally with a customer to agitate them and get them engaged with the process when they're trying to tune out. There's a whole lot of skills associated with, and we like to call them soft skills, but I think they're absolutely hard skills. The ability to read people, the ability to have empathy, the ability to care enough to make sure that they get a great experience. Those are really uniquely human skills, and those are very difficult to recreate. It's very difficult to recreate those experiences through a purely 2D digital interface.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think to add to that, the first person that you have that connection with is likely the person you're going to buy from, right? So if you take the car dealership example, if you're shopping for a car and you have a really good experience at one of the dealerships that you go visit, there's a good chance you'll go back to them, and that will influence also your opinion if you're comparing different manufacturers. You also, Jason, you reminded me an interesting example from my the old industries I worked at in the media space, where for many years there was this notion where attention spans are being reduced and you have to make everything bite-sized and snackable content, and Snapchat came out and things of that nature. And yet over the past 5 years, it seems like podcasts are taking over, where you have like long-form 3-hour conversations that 10 years ago, no one would have imagined in broadcast media that's the right medium. But they're dominating broadcast media today. And we don't quite always understand what humans really need until we've gone through that cycle and we reduce content to snackable 20-second clips, and all of a sudden 3-hour podcasts are what's leading the way.
And I think that medium, right platform, right context, right content. And I think that once I introduced video back into my podcast just a couple of months ago, we don't hear much we don't hear about much audio on its own going viral, right? It's generally video that goes viral or short video clips that go viral. And it just gives me so much more to work with when I'm doing the video and the audio. Sure, audio can go out to the audio only podcast engines out there, and they're super popular. When we think of Spotify and the ability now to have video podcasts hosted by Spotify, so you can listen in audio format or you can watch the video on the same platform, but also my ability to repurpose snippets of these conversations to short form video platforms as, for lack of a better term, a lead magnet to the full episode, and being able to take out those really selective cuts and say, okay, that hour conversation isn't appropriate for TikTok, but 60 seconds that are super engaging of that conversation maybe is appropriate for TikTok. And then you can put in the notes, hey, for the full episode, go and watch episode 265 or whatever it is. And so I think that there's the ability to repurpose video at scale is becoming a very big part of engagement. And basically, if you're only producing audio, you're fighting with one arm behind your back. And I think that you're tailing on to that explosion in video as a medium, particularly for millennials and even younger, where video is the prime way that they consume social media content today. It's not audio and it's not text. It's primarily pictures and video. That is the prime way. And obviously YouTube and long form video platforms, Rumble, et cetera, So whether it's short form or long form, most of the younger generation is consuming most of their content in a video format of some kind. And so I guess that plays nicely with people wanting to have live video with a real human being.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we do really well with the two kind of the two extremes. So we do really well with the younger folks that maybe are less patient and they want to get something done really quick. And video, they're on their mobile phones as well, and often the experiences aren't as good on your mobile phone, so getting someone on video makes it a lot easier. But then also I know that my parents would definitely prefer to have some video pop up on their screen and get assisted while they're trying to check out rather than try to figure it out on their own. When I joined, I didn't think about that use case, but we really benefit both sides, and people like you and I who very easily can go through a self-checkout may not opt to use the video, and that's perfectly fine as well.
And for you guys, what is, I guess, if you were to look out over the next 12 to 18 months, is there any functionality that your merchants are asking you for today that you don't offer? Or is there something on your mind that you're going, we're going to skate to where the puck is going. We see where it's going, and we're going to add this new piece of functionality, which I think is a game changer. Just talk about what you can talk about in terms of your roadmap. I know you obviously can't get into too much detail because it's probably proprietary, but what are the exciting things coming down the pipe for you guys that you think, hey, this is going to be a further game changer for the merchants we work with?
Yeah, so end of last year, we added the integration with the asynchronous chat, so the WhatsApp, the Facebook Messenger, SMS, others, Instagram. So that was a game changer because it's been adopted by almost every single one of our customers as a small add-on to the platform. But again, it's just giving yet another tool, one more way to connect for those who prefer that way. We actually have a big product kind of summit next month where we're finalizing our 3-year roadmap with what's coming up next. I'm very excited because I joined 9 months ago and we haven't yet had the chance to do it, so this will be the first time. I think a few things we're going to look at. I was on site at one of our customers last week in the UK, a large home furnishings company, where they are offering these immersive experiences, including with VR goggles, where you can basically walk around the store from the comfort of your own home, and perhaps being able to integrate that in some way with the commerce experience itself can be interesting, and we can be part of that. So that's one thing that we're going to look at. We have a few other ideas, nothing that I'm quite ready to share, but I think video will continue to be at the center of what we do, and making it just easier, more accessible, reducing the barrier to get started. As you can imagine, where a big part of our value proposition is to get a higher percentage of the people engaging, right? Instead of having 1 or 2 or 3 people out of 100, we want to get that up to 5, 6, 7. So making the right nudges, as we call them, at the right time to get people to start the engagement and connect with a human is really key to our success and our customer success as well.
Makes complete sense. And how do you guys make your money? You're clearly targeted at the enterprise because you don't have pricing on your website. And anytime I don't see pricing, I know it's an enterprise product. You don't have that matrix of gold, silver, bronze, and 100, 200, 500 a month or whatever it is. It's always by negotiation. So that always gives me a pretty clear picture that you're targeted at the enterprise and a negotiated commercial model. But generally speaking, how do you guys price your platform? Is it based on a flat SaaS fee per month and then based on a per usage fee above that or a per agent fee above that? How do you guys make your money in the market as a SaaS platform?
Yeah, I think we may actually put our pricing on the website. I love transparency, and we don't really negotiate much. So it's not like a blank piece of paper to start the negotiation on the pricing. It's a very simple per seat model. So it's a few $100s per month per seat. For example, if it's a contact center that has 5 concurrent agents that are working, to have the ability to have 5 concurrent video calls, we just multiply 5 people by the monthly fee, and we typically will sign a 2 or 3 year agreement with an enterprise. So very straightforward pricing, and that's typically not a big issue to get started. It's more about the strategy and how are those experiences with video or with text integrated into the overall experience and the overall strategy of the retailer.
And I'm guessing that if they've got a bigger team and they want more seats, then the per seat price can come down. If they want 100 seats, then presumably they're going to get a pretty sweet deal because they want to use it so enterprise wide within their business.
Yeah, and that's correct. We haven't quite done 100 concurrent, so we work on a concurrency basis. So 100 concurrent would be really huge. But we do have a number of customers that have dozens of concurrent seats. And another thing that we added recently is the mobile app. So what I described before, where you can transfer a call from a contact center over to a store, we provide that as a free option. In some cases, we do have customers that have hundreds of stores. So there may be many hundreds of people who have access to the platform, but having more than 20, 30, 40 concurrent video calls is a lot, and we haven't quite done that yet. We'd be very interested in taking a look at that kind of use case, but not yet.
I guess the one benefit for merchants in that scenario is because they're not named users. Basically, it's all based on the concept of a generic user within the business, within the organization, and concurrent users. How many users concurrently do you think you're going to need from your side to actually be on these calls? And so that makes it easier for a business to digest, given the fact maybe they've got 100 people working in customer service, but they may only ever have 5 video inbound calls at a time, say, for example. That's the percentage of inbounds that a customer wants to jump on video. And so I guess they can work that out over time. Maybe they start out with 5 seats, for example, and then they find out, wow, our customers are really using this at a much greater scale than what we thought. Oh, awesome, great. Let's add 5 more seats because we're taking potentially 10 video calls at a time. That feels like a very scalable model for both you and the merchant, and it's very digestible based on the data.
Yeah, and there is a sophisticated system for queuing, and so if all 5 of those agents are currently on calls, then instead of having the ability on the website to connect with someone over video, it will only offer the ability to connect with a chatbot or maybe with text chat.
So great. So there's fallbacks and safety nets, basically.
Exactly. And you asked before and I didn't answer, but there is also a pretty extensive analytics platform that gives you all the data. So if you see that your agents are all always busy, then maybe you need to add a couple of licenses and hire a couple of people. One of the things that we see, it always surprises me that our customers are surprised by this, but we see often that there is a really high number of inquiries of video calls happening, let's say in the evening hours. And they're only staffed for 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or something of that nature. And then they're like, whoa, maybe we should change our contact center hours to cater more to the evening because that's when people come and they want to buy our products. So our analytics module really gives all that data, and you could look at it for different sections of the website, so for different products, for different teams if they exist as well. So it's quite comprehensive, and I think there's a lot of value in that.
It does make the business case for having more consultative salespeople if conversion rates are higher, if AOVs are higher, if unit sales are higher, if all those things are higher, and if customer satisfaction and if NPS, for example, for those customers is higher, then it makes a pretty compelling business case to add resources in that area, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we also measure sort of an NPS where we have post calls, we have a survey that's built into the platform. And without a doubt, I can tell you that video versus non-video, there's a huge difference where video NPS is incredibly higher. People feel like they get what they need because they have the ability to have all that nuanced conversation like you were saying before. And they always feel like the other side understands them better compared to a text or of course, compared to a bot interaction.
Makes complete sense. And thank you so much for spending time with me today. We're coming down to the end of our time together, and this is where I get to flip the script and hand the microphone over to you and get you to ask me one question, any question you like. Can be personal, can be professional. So Tomer AZENKOT from V24, what is your question for me today?
Oh, I should have been prepared for this better, Jason. I always try to think of, okay, what unique perspective someone has. Obviously, you speak with people like me every day or close to it, so you get to hear a lot of different companies. What would you say is the most interesting success story that you've heard on this podcast? So what is it that someone did that was a real game changer? Back to a question that you asked me earlier. What was something that you thought was a really great idea and made a huge difference and maybe relevant for others like myself?
Man, fantastic question, and it's a question I've never been asked before, so it makes it even more contextually relevant. Look, I think that the ones that stand out to me as having incredible success as either e-commerce platforms in their own right or augmenting technologies that augment the e-commerce experience or the omnichannel experience like you guys do, the ones that have sprung out of pain that has been acutely felt either by the founders or the leaders of the company before they built the product. So sure, there have been some successes of platforms where they said, look, we're going to build something. We identify a gap in the market. Let's build for that. Let's build for that gap. And I think a lot of the current crop of AI technologies are more like that. They haven't necessarily felt the pain themselves as a merchant, or they haven't felt the pain as a tech leader or an IT leader or whatever, but they see a gap. They go, I think AI could fix that, and then they go and build it for the market, and they try to prove out a market gap over time through market research, et cetera, et cetera. But the platforms that seem to hit the mark the fastest in terms of product market fit, and the ones that have the greatest empathy for where merchants find themselves in today's day and age, are the platforms that were built by people scratching an itch. They're the ones that were built by people who have been in the trenches, who have been at the coalface, who have done the work. They felt the pain. They're going, shit, this should not be this painful. I'm going to build something that fixes and addresses that pain specifically. And I can speak to my own career. And even as a consultant, because I've actually been in the trenches as a merchant, both in my own pure play and working inside merchant businesses, I have a deeper sense of understanding, empathy, care, concern. Just when I go in and I have these conversations, I'm able to have really super authentic conversations with the merchants I work with, because I've actually been there and I've had to do their jobs in many cases. And so by definition, I know the pain they feel at a visceral level, because I've felt it myself. I felt the knots in my stomach when we can't keep up with the volume of customer service requests. I felt the knot in my stomach when something on the website isn't working right and our conversion falls through the floor because it's not working, or the checkout breaks, or there's a security breach. Or I have felt all those pains at one point or another in my career, myself personally. And I think that people that, for example, only ever work agency side, or maybe they only ever work vendor side, they've never felt that pain. So sure, they can be empathetic within reason, but it's very difficult for them to truly understand what merchants are going through if they haven't been there themselves. And I feel it's the same for vendors. I feel like the vendors that really have a nuanced understanding of the problems that they're trying to solve for. And so, for example, in your scenario, maybe it's that the leadership in your business has gone and they've actually sat in customer service centers and they've listened to 50 calls in customer service centers, and they know what types of queries are coming in, and they're actually listening to those two-way interactions, and they're going, hey, we could do this one tweak to our product that would make their job like 1,000% easier. Or in the case of the in-store experience, maybe you visited some of your merchants' physical stores and you've seen how they guide the customer through the buying experience in store to give them an amazing experience. And you're going, hey, we can replicate some of these things with some automations in there that can make their job a lot easier and a lot more scalable, and also put them to use when there's no one in store at that time. That's also another thing that I think is amazing about your technologies. It increases the productivity of those store staff that may be standing behind the counter, and it's a Wednesday at 12:30 and there's no one in the store because there's just no one shopping, they're all at work, or there's very few customers in the store and they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs and they're on their phone. Why wouldn't they want to be on a phone with a customer instead? And so I think it's just, and I know this is a little bit of a generic answer, but it pretty much holds true across everybody that I've interviewed, is the people that have been in the trenches doing that thing are automatically more empathetic than the ones who just saw a gap in the market and ran headlong at the gap.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In fact, I didn't share the origin story of V24, which I wasn't part of, obviously, but originally, so the company got started before it became a SaaS platform. It was a project, an agency, if you will, that was delivering projects. And the first customer was Lexus when they wanted to get started in the German market. So the big problem they had ahead of them was trying to compete and enter a market in which BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and the other OEMs have been there for many years and are obviously very successful. And the way they wanted to differentiate was with an exceptional customer experience, and in doing so with video on the website. Our founders actually came from the auto industry, and that's how V24 began.
Wow, amazing. I still remember their original tagline, the relentless pursuit of perfection. That they've changed their tagline a few times since then, and I think they should have stuck with that original tagline, because it just grabbed me the first time I ever saw a Lexus ad on TV, and it just finished with the black screen. The relentless pursuit of perfection, and then the Lexus logo. It sounds so trite and simple, but it was an emotional tagline. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Listen, Tomer, how is it best that people get a hold of you? I will obviously put a link to the V24 website and to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, but it's v24v24.com. And then do you prefer that people get a hold of you through LinkedIn or just go through the website? How do you like people to find you?
I'm personally big on LinkedIn. I don't use much of Twitter or any other platform, so LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me, and I'm always happy to connect and speak with people. But I think the best thing to do is to go to the V24 website and actually speak with someone from our team using our tool. So we eat our own dog food, and if you go to the V24 website, you'll see an icon on the bottom right of the screen, and that's the way for you to engage with our team. If it's between, let's say, 9 a.m. in the UK and 5 p.m. here on the East Coast of the US, then there should be someone on the other side. If not, then you have the ability to leave us a message or to use our chatbot as well to get any answer you want.
Wow. Love it. I always love brands that eat their own dog food and use their own products and prove them out and use themselves as guinea pigs. That's fantastic. So absolutely, I did see that on the website that you could engage via your video platform, which is amazing. Tomer, thank you so much for spending time with me today. And look, I'd love to get you on another 12, 18 months and see what's ahead for V24. Thank you so much for your time. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.